So, I mean, you got to do what you think is right. You know, we've been on a long journey here, right? I mean, it's
Mark Zuckerberg is easily one of the richest men on the planet. With a fortune topping $246 billion, most people assume his 3 children will inherit everything he's built. That's how these stories usually end. But this one doesn't. Behind closed doors, Zuckerberg has reportedly made a decision that's left insiders stunned. He's not leaving his empire to his daughters. Not a single billion. Instead, Mark is preparing to hand his life's work to one specific person. It isn't family. It isn't a secret partner. And it's definitely not who you're thinking. So who is this person? And how did Mark arrive at this decision? Join us as we get into all the details. The billionaire who built an empire and left everyone guessing. Long before he became a household name, Mark Elliott Zuckerberg was just a quiet kid growing up in Dobbs Ferry, New York. He was born on May 14, 1984, to Dr. Edward Zuckerberg, a dentist, and Karen Kempner, a psychiatrist. He was raised in a Reformed Jewish household alongside his 3 sisters, Ariel, Randy, and Donna. His great-grandparents had emigrated from Austria, Germany, and Poland, and that immigrant work ethic seemed to echo through the family. From early on, Mark didn't think like other kids. While most children were glued to video games, he was already curious about how computers talked to each other. By age 11, he had built something called ZuckNet, a basic messaging system that connected the family home to his father's dental office. It wasn't flashy, it was practical, and it revealed something important. Mark wasn't interested in consuming technology. He wanted to control it. He started at Ardsley High School, then transferred to Phillips Exeter Academy, where he captained the fencing team and sharpened his coding skills. During those years, he built a music player called Synapse Media Player that learned users' listening habits through early machine learning. It caught attention online, earned a modest PC Magazine rating, and landed on Slashdot. Even while still in high school, Mark was taking graduate-level computer courses at Mercy College on Thursday nights. By the time he arrived at Harvard University in 2002, his reputation had already preceded him. He studied psychology and computer science, lived in Kirkland House, and joined Alpha Epsilon Pi. But lectures weren't what drove him. Code did. In his second year, he built CourseMatch, a tool that helped students choose classes based on what their peers were taking. It was clever, useful, and ambitious. Then came FaceMash. Using photos pulled from Harvard dorm directories, Mark created a site that placed 2 images side by side and asked users to vote on who was more attractive. This idea spread instantly, and traffic surged so hard that it overwhelmed Harvard's network switches. Within days, the university shut it down. Students were furious that their photos had been used without permission, and Mark ended up issuing a public apology. The campus newspaper ended up labeling the site as completely improper. For most people, that would have been a warning, but for Mark, it was momentum. In January 2004, he started coding again, and on February 4th, he launched The Facebook with Eduardo Saverin, Andrew McCollum, Dustin Moskovitz, and Chris Hughes. What began as a simple student directory was inspired in part by printed Facebooks used at prep schools like Phillips Exeter. It allowed students to list names, photos, class years, and friends. The response was immediate, and almost instantly, controversy followed. Just 6 days after launch, 3 Harvard seniors, Cameron Winklevoss, Tyler Winklevoss, and Divya Narendra, accused Zuckerberg of misleading them. They claimed he had agreed to help build their platform, Harvard Connection, while secretly developing a competing product. They took their complaint to the Harvard Crimson, triggering an investigation. Zuckerberg tried to stop the story from running. At the same time, he accessed private email accounts belonging to editors using login data pulled from the Facebook. The situation exploded, and eventually, the dispute turned into a lawsuit. It ended in a settlement that granted the plaintiffs Facebook shares and cash. But by then, the platform was already expanding far beyond Harvard. Zuckerberg and Dustin Moskovitz pushed Facebook into Columbia, NYU, Stanford, Dartmouth, Cornell, the University of Pennsylvania, California, Brown, and Yale. What started as a campus experiment was becoming a national network. That's when Mark made the decision that changed everything. He dropped out of Harvard. He and the founding team packed up and moved to Palo Alto, renting a small house that quietly doubled as their first office. It wasn't glamorous. It was cramped, improvised, and powered by caffeine and long nights. That summer, Zuckerberg crossed paths with Peter Thiel, who saw something in the project and wrote the first major check. By mid-2004, they finally landed a real office. The original plan had been to return to Harvard University. Instead, they stayed. Zuckerberg later admitted that Silicon Valley felt mythical to him, a place where technology ruled and ambition wasn't awkward. So he leaned all the way in. Startup culture became his oxygen. He started telling young founders at Y Combinator's startup school that youth itself was an advantage, that being underestimated gave you room to move fast and break things before anyone noticed. And while the rest of the world was still trying to figure out what this platform even was, Facebook kept growing. Quietly at first, then explosively. By 2010, Facebook had reached 500 million users. At that point, this wasn't a college experiment anymore. It was an empire. That same year, tech journalist Stephen Levy wrote that Zuckerberg clearly thought of himself as a hacker. Zuckerberg leaned into that identity. He talked openly about breaking things to make them better. Inside Facebook, that mindset became policy. The company began hosting hackathons every 6 to 8 weeks, all-night build sessions where engineers were given music, food, and beer, and told to create something from scratch. Zuckerberg showed up regularly. He explained that the idea was simple. You could build something really good in a single night, and that energy became part of Facebook's DNA. He said it was core to his personality. Recognition followed fast. In 2007, Zuckerberg landed on MIT Technology Review's TR35 list as one of the world's top innovators under 35. Vanity Fair later named him #1 on its 2010 list of the most influential people of the information age. The year before, he ranked number 23. Then came New Statesman, which placed him among the world's 50 most influential figures. By 2012, Zuckerberg was meeting with global leaders. On October 1st of that year, he sat down in Moscow with then-Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev to talk about social media innovation and Facebook's expansion in Russia. At the time, Facebook had around 9 million Russian users. Domestic rival VK had roughly 34 million. But growth never came without turbulence. In August 2013, The Washington Post reported that Zuckerberg's personal Facebook profile had been hacked by an unemployed web developer. And alongside the scale came lawsuits. Co-founder Eduardo Saverin sued Zuckerberg, accusing him of misusing company funds. The case eventually settled privately, with Saverin keeping his co-founder title. In 2010, Pakistani authorities launched a criminal investigation after a controversial Draw Muhammad contest appeared on Facebook. The platform was temporarily blocked in Pakistan, while officials called for international action. Then came Paul Seglia. Seglia claimed Zuckerberg owed him majority ownership of Facebook based on an early contract. Federal authorities later arrested Seglia, charging him with mail fraud, wire fraud, and fabricating evidence. Investigators concluded the emails backing his story had been falsified. Some law firms walked away from the case before it even reached court. Through every scandal, lawsuit, hack, and international backlash, Zuckerberg kept moving. He took a symbolic $1 salary as CEO. He kept expanding Facebook's reach. He kept changing how billions of people communicated, from a boy wiring computers in his parents' house to a student crashing Harvard servers, to a dropout CEO rejecting buyout offers and surviving legal wars. Mark Zuckerberg has always moved the same way, forward. Mark Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chan. Inside the marriage that survived scandals, billions, and Silicon Valley chaos. For all the lawsuits, controversies, and billion-dollar headlines that follow Mark Zuckerberg everywhere he goes, there has been one steady presence in his life that never wavered. Priscilla Chan. While the world knows Zuckerberg through viral posts, congressional hearings, and the movie The Social Network, very few people truly understand what his marriage looks like behind closed doors. And even fewer know just how shaky their love story started. Chan once admitted she almost walked away before it even began. Looking back on their early dating days, she told the Wall Street Journal that meeting Mark felt less like fate and more like an experiment. At the time, she had spent her entire life grinding toward Harvard, only to meet a guy who looked like he was on the verge of getting kicked out. To her, that was a red flag. She explained that she didn't instantly think he was the one. She was worried, careful, measuring every step, and honestly, who could blame her? But fate has a funny way of showing up in bathroom lines. Back in 2003, Chan first crossed paths with Zuckerberg at a Harvard party while waiting to use the restroom. They started talking. One conversation led to another, and slowly, something unexpected began to grow. Later, in a 2010 interview with The New Yorker, Chan remembered Mark as this awkward, slightly out-there nerd who carried beer glasses printed with C++ coding jokes. It was college humor, she explained, but filtered through computer science. Their relationship unfolded quietly while Zuckerberg was building what would soon become Facebook. They dated for years before finally deciding to move in together. Chan was deep into her pediatric training at the University of California, while Mark was already planted in Palo Alto, glued to his screens and chasing scale. When they started staying together, Zuckerberg did what he always does. He announced it on Facebook, joking that now they had double of everything and inviting friends to come take appliances before they gave them away. It was awkward, it was funny, it was perfectly on brand. Then came the twist no one saw coming. Roughly 2 years later, and just one day after Facebook went public, guests arrived at Zuckerberg's Palo Alto home thinking they were attending a casual graduation party for Chan. Instead, they walked into a wedding. There was no warning, no press rollout. Just Mark and Priscilla tying the knot in their backyard, surrounded by friends and family. One guest later told People that it was genuinely cute, the kind of surprise that feels intimate rather than flashy. Since then, they've built a family with 3 children, grown into global philanthropists, and learned how to navigate fame together. And when asked what keeps their marriage strong, Chan didn't offer fairy tales. She explained that Mark has always pushed her to be braver, always cheering her on, always believing in her. But she was clear there was no single magical moment holding them together. What makes it work, she said, is showing up for each other, again and again, even when life gets heavy. That grounded honesty matters, especially when your husband runs one of the most powerful tech companies on earth. But that's not the only thing that makes the marriage work. Mark has been known for going over the top when it comes to gifting his wife, and recently it wasn't any different. Recently, Zuckerberg and Chan made headlines after purchasing a massive $23 million mansion in Washington, D.C., just miles from political power centers. The house spans over 15,000 square feet, basically a private compound disguised as a home. Relationship expert Susan Trombetti suggested the move might be about more than politics or meta-lobbying. She pointed out that long-term couples often look for ways to shake things up, to make life feel fresh again, even after decades together. Their DC move, she explained, could be less about real estate and more about revival. Because after 20 years, even billionaires hit relationship ruts. But Mark Zuckerberg doesn't do romance the usual way. In 2024, he surprised Priscilla Chan with a 7-foot statue of herself, planted right in their garden. He posted it on Instagram with a cheeky caption referencing ancient Roman traditions. Chan responded playfully, asking whether more of her was better. Not everyone appreciated the gesture. Art critics mocked it. Some called it surreal. One even joked that Zuckerberg was building his own private reality bubble. Then there was 2023. That was the year Mark installed a full MMA octagon in their backyard while preparing for a highly publicized cage match challenge with Elon Musk. Priscilla wasn't amused, especially after spending 2 years perfecting their lawn. She texted him, reminding him how much work had gone into that grass. Mark responded by posting the octagon online and asking followers to vote on whether he should save the lawn or keep the cage. And just when you think you've seen it all, there was Priscilla's 40th birthday. Zuckerberg showed up wearing a glittery jumpsuit inspired by Benson Boone and attempted a dramatic piano jump. It was awkward, cringeworthy, completely unfiltered, but also strangely sincere. For a couple whose marriage began one day after Facebook's IPO, mixing business with personal life has always been normal. Their move to Washington, D.C. may offer political proximity, but it also promises something else: breathing room. Trombetti believes the relocation could remove some emotional strain, especially considering Zuckerberg's non-stop workload at Meta platforms. And honestly, becoming a Washington power couple feels like a natural evolution for two people who already operate on a global stage. Their frequent Ultimate Fighting Championship appearances, coordinated outfits, and carefully curated social media moments all suggest they've embraced visibility as a team. Relationship experts often say long marriages need reinvention. People change, energy shifts, life gets dull if you let it. While most couples don't have $23 million homes or backyard fight cages to spice things up, the Zuckerbergs are clearly using their resources to keep their partnership alive. Whether this chapter strengthens their bond or simply creates more Instagram content remains to be seen. But one thing is undeniable. Behind the empire, behind the power plays, behind the tech dominance and inheritance decisions, there is one woman who saw Mark Zuckerberg before the billions, before Meta, before history started paying attention. And she stayed. Not because he was perfect, but because they chose each other over and over again, even when the world was watching. But to understand how they got here, you have to rewind. When Mark Zuckerberg killed Facebook and bet everything on Meta. By 2021, the pressure around Facebook had reached boiling point. Scandals were stacking up, public trust was collapsing, internal documents were leaking, and lawmakers were circling. So Zuckerberg did something bold. Some would say desperate. He killed Facebook as a corporate identity. That year, the company officially rebranded itself as Meta. Meanwhile, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp stayed exactly where they were. But the parent company changed its name, its logo, and its entire story. Meta, Zuckerberg explained, was meant to encompass everything they were building beyond social media: virtual reality, augmented reality, future platforms, entire digital worlds. He said the old Facebook brand simply couldn't carry what he was trying to become. Behind the scenes, though, the timing wasn't subtle. The rebrand landed right after damning internal documents surfaced, leaked by former employee Frances Haugen. She accused the company of knowingly putting profits over safety. The files claimed Instagram harmed teenage mental health. They showed Facebook struggling to control hate speech outside the U.S. They revealed vaccine misinformation slipping through the cracks during a global pandemic. Even the Washington Post reported that Facebook had withheld critical information from policymakers. Zuckerberg pushed back, calling it a coordinated effort to twist leaked documents into a false narrative. But the damage was already done. And so Meta was born. Standing on a virtual conference stage, Zuckerberg unveiled his bigger vision: the metaverse, a fully immersive online universe where people wouldn't just scroll anymore. They would live inside digital spaces, work there, attend concerts there, play games there, meet friends there, all powered by VR headsets and interconnected virtual environments. He explained that Meta came from a Greek word meaning beyond. He said the company would now be split into two segments: the family of apps on one side and future platforms on the other. And at Meta's headquarters in Menlo Park, California, the familiar thumbs-up like sign was replaced with a glowing blue infinity symbol. Zuckerberg made it clear. Over time, he didn't even expect users to need Facebook to access the rest of Meta's services. Facebook, the product, would eventually become optional. Reality, on the other hand, would not. He openly said he wanted Meta to be seen as a metaverse company first. To outsiders, this sounded like upgraded virtual reality. To Zuckerberg, it was the future of the internet itself. People wouldn't sit at computers anymore. They'd put on headsets and step inside digital worlds stitched together across platforms. Offices without walls, concerts without crowds, Hangouts without geography, a virtual oasis. And it was from this virtual oasis that things started getting strange. In 2024, a satirical report out of Menlo Park painted an unsettling picture of just how deep Zuckerberg's VR obsession had become. According to the piece, his wife Priscilla Chan began growing suspicious after noticing he was spending nearly 14 hours a day inside his Oculus headset. When he finally took it off, he reportedly looked confused and asked whether she was his computer spouse or his flesh spouse. Chan, who had long avoided questioning whatever happened in the metaverse, admitted this felt different. She said she didn't mind virtual meetings, VR concerts, or gaming sessions, but she made one thing clear. No matter what immersive 3D world he was in, she was still his real wife. The moment that truly rattled her came when Zuckerberg accidentally referred to their son as digital spawn, and then asked the child to confirm he had legs and wasn't just a floating torso. That's when Chan reportedly drew the line. "Call her crazy," she said, but something didn't feel right anymore. The story went on to claim that Zuckerberg later attempted intimacy while wearing a MetaQuest and ended up getting electrocuted in the process. No gore, no theatrics, just another surreal moment in a stretch of behavior that already felt disconnected from reality. When you strip away the jokes, what you're left with is a billionaire CEO openly trying to move humanity into a virtual dimension while his real-world company burns through controversy after controversy. Meta wasn't just a rebrand. It was an escape hatch, a chance to outrun Facebook's baggage, a chance to pivot public attention away from whistleblowers and toward holograms, a chance to replace criticism with curiosity. Zuckerberg didn't rename his company because it sounded cool. He renamed it because he's betting the future on a world that doesn't exist yet. Who will be inheriting Mark Zuckerberg's fortunes? When people hear that Mark Zuckerberg is worth over $200 billion, the assumption comes instantly. His kids will inherit everything. That's how these stories usually go. A tech titan builds an empire. His children grow up surrounded by unimaginable wealth and privilege, and the money simply rolls forward into the next generation. But Zuckerberg's story doesn't follow that script. Not even close. As the founder of Meta Platforms, nearly all of Mark's staggering fortune is tied directly to his roughly 13% ownership stake in company stock. And yet, despite being one of the richest men alive, Zuckerberg and his wife Priscilla Chan have made a decision that quietly flipped expectations upside down. They plan to give away 99% of their Meta shares, not after they die, during their lifetime, which raises the uncomfortable question no one wants to ask out loud. If the children aren't inheriting the billions, who is? Before we get there, you have to understand the family behind the fortune. Mark and Priscilla are parents to 3 daughters. Their first child, Maxima Chan Zuckerberg, arrived in late 2015 after years of trying and 3 heartbreaking miscarriages. Their second daughter, August Chan Zuckerberg, was born in 2017. And in March 2023, they welcomed their third baby girl, Aurelia Chan Zuckerberg. Each birth marked a shift in Zuckerberg's life, not just personally, but philosophically. Back in July 2015, when Mark and Priscilla announced they were expecting Max, they spoke openly about how much the moment meant to them. They called it a new chapter, a turning point, and just days before Max arrived, Zuckerberg made headlines for announcing he would take 2 months of paternity leave. He explained that he and Priscilla were preparing for their daughter's arrival and thinking deeply about how they wanted to spend those first months. He called it a personal decision, one rooted in family, not optics. Then Max was born. Zuckerberg shared a simple photo of the 3 of them together and wrote that they were overjoyed to welcome their daughter into the world. But that announcement came with something much bigger. Alongside Max's birth, Mark and Priscilla revealed they were launching the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. And in an open letter addressed directly to their newborn daughter, they laid out a promise that stunned the world. They would give away 99% of their Facebook shares to help improve education, cure disease, connect communities, and advance human potential. They told Max they felt a responsibility to leave the world better than they found it. They wrote that they wished her a life filled with love, hope, and joy. And quietly, without drama, they made it clear. This money was never meant to sit in a trust fund. 2 years later, when Priscilla became pregnant again, Zuckerberg opened up about how fragile that happiness felt. After multiple miscarriages, they didn't take anything for granted. He admitted that when they learned Priscilla was expecting August, his first hope was simply that the baby would be healthy. When August arrived in 2017, Mark wrote another letter to his daughter, telling her how excited they were to see who she would become and how much they already loved her. Fatherhood had changed him. He said it shifted his perspective entirely. And despite their wealth, Mark and Priscilla have worked hard to keep their children grounded. In interviews, they've explained that they don't give their kids everything. The girls have chores, they have responsibilities, they're taken to the office so they can see what their parents do and how they contribute. They're being raised to understand effort, not entitlement. That same philosophy carried into their third pregnancy. In September 2022, Zuckerberg announced that Max and August would soon have a baby sister. In February 2023, he shared a quiet birthday moment with Priscilla, kissing her cheek while holding her baby bump, joking that August refers to her mom as the main character of the family. Then came Aurelia. Zuckerberg introduced her to the world with a soft caption, calling her a little blessing. 3 daughters, a family that posts Taylor Swift concert photos and birthday party snapshots. A billionaire dad who wears glitter jumpsuits at celebrations and tries piano jumps for fun. From the outside, it looks almost normal, but behind those moments sits one of the most radical inheritance decisions in modern history. When Max was born, Mark and Priscilla made it official. They were not leaving their billions to their children. Instead, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative would become the primary vehicle for their wealth. The organization isn't a traditional nonprofit. It's structured as a limited liability company, meaning it can invest, lobby, and fund projects directly. Zuckerberg and Chan have said any returns are funneled back into their mission. At the time of their announcement, their shares were worth around $45 billion. Today, Zuckerberg's net worth has climbed dramatically, and yet the plan remains unchanged. Their daughters will not grow up with vaults of inherited meta stock waiting for them. So again, we circle back to the question, who inherits Mark Zuckerberg's fortune? The uncomfortable answer is this: no single person does. Not Max, not August, not Aurelia. Instead, Zuckerberg is positioning his wealth to flow into systems, platforms, research, and institutions that outlive him. He's choosing influence over inheritance, infrastructure over family legacy. It's a move that feels less like charity and more like strategy, because while his children won't control Meta's billions, Zuckerberg will still decide where that money goes, how it's invested, and what kind of world it builds. This isn't about generosity, it's about control at scale. Mark Zuckerberg isn't creating heirs, he's creating outcomes. And when you zoom out, that tells you everything about how he sees the future. Not as something his children will own, but as something he intends to design. Zuckerberg's fortune isn't being handed down, it's being redirected. Away from bloodlines, toward systems, toward platforms, toward a vision that stretches far beyond one family. And that might be the most powerful inheritance of all. What do you think about Zuckerberg's decision to not leave any of his fortune to his children? Do you think the children will grow up to resent their father? Or do you think they will understand why their father made this decision? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.